Hi, I'm Andrea. Thank you so much for joining me for this 30-minute yoga practice. It's great to have you here. A few things that might be helpful before we get started. You'll notice I have a couple of blocks. If you don't have blocks, thick books is a great way to create blocks out of something you might have at home. Also, a folded blanket in case hands and knees doesn't feel good without padding underneath your knees or lowering a back knee or any of those kinds of things. A chair is great to have nearby for balance. And something like a bolster, you can just pull a cushion from your couch, or perhaps you have a really solid pillow from your bed. I'm barefoot. You can always use your shoes, it's fine. And I'm on a yoga mat. If you don't have a yoga mat, just find a place in your house that's not too slippery and maybe carpeted would feel best. Then let's start in our mountain pose, our beloved bedrock pose of mountain pose. It's the core pose of all poses, and core is something that actually might be a theme to our practice today. Turn your palms away from each other and feel your feet on the floor and your head in the sky. In fact, think ears over shoulders, over hips, over heels, and have a soft bend in your knees. Your palms are turning away from each other, but that's happening at the shoulder joint. If you gaze right out at the horizon, what I like to call our bright horizon, your chin will be parallel to the ground. Take a moment to cultivate your breath. If you can, breathe in and out through your nose. Of course, mostly breathe any way that you can. And let's take a moment to stop and pause, to turn the arrows of attention inward as opposed to distractedly outward. We'll add to our mountain pose. Inhale, arms out to the side, thumbs to the sky, a V shape. Exhale, hinge at your hips and take your hands to your thighs like traction. Inhale, your heart forward. Exhale, hinge at your hips. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V shape, and then float your arms along your sides. Again, inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, a V shape. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands to your thighs. Inhale, heart extends forward, and exhale, hip hinge. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, and then arms along your side, and we pause. Inhale, V shape. Exhale, hinge at your hips and fold. Inhale, heart forward. Exhale, hinge a little deeper, but keep your head higher than your hips. Inhale, rise and reach, thumbs to the sky, and then arms along your side. Palms face out one more time. Inhale, V shape. Exhale, fold. Hands to thighs. Inhale, heart forward. Exhale, fold back in. Inhale, rise and reach. And then pause in your mountain. Stay in this mountain pose stance. Stand onto your left leg and hug that outer left hip in. So we have a tendency to kind of collapse in the hip. I'd like us not to do that. Now, give your knee a hug into your chest. If it doesn't come all the way in, just hold underneath the hamstring or anywhere that you can. And we'll pause here, hugging that outer left hip into the midline and breathing. Place your right foot on the ground, hip distance, thumbs face out. We pause. Stand onto your right foot, bend your left knee towards your chest. Maybe you hold under the hamstring. We're hugging that outer right hip in the whole time. You could interlace around the shin. We pause and you breathe. You're just doing the best that you can while we're here. 2 moments. Step your left foot down into your mountain hip distance. Turn your palms away from one another. This time, chair pose, thumbs to the sky, bending your knees. And then stand on your left leg and bring that right knee into your chest like we just did a moment ago, holding it, but now without holding it. And then bend your knees for chair pose, thumbs to the sky. Your left knee comes into your chest as you stand on your right foot. Step into your chair pose, thumbs to the sky. Stand on your left leg, right knee into your chest, arms run alongside you. Chair pose, thumbs to the sky. Stand on your right leg, let your left knee come towards your chest. Chair pose, thumbs to the sky. Stand on your left leg, right knee to your chest. Chair pose, thumbs to the sky. Last one, left knee into your chest. Chair pose, let's pause in our chair pose. Keep the V shape and thumbs to the sky. Shift your weight back into your heels. Take a few breaths here. And then stand, arms along your side, palms face out. Returning to what we rehearsed a little bit earlier, stand on your left leg, bring your right knee into your chest and take a hold of it either behind the hamstring or maybe in front of the shin. Let's really organize keeping that midline, so outer left hip hugging in, and then take your arms out to the side, thumbs to the sky, and now we've got a little core work happening and some balance too. Doesn't have to be that the knee is high to your chest. 2 moments just like this. Lower your right foot hip distance from your left and float your arms alongside you, palms face out. Let's take a chair pose in between sides. Bend your knees, thumbs to the sky, V shape. And then as we stand up, float your arms along your side and shift your weight onto your right foot. Bend your left knee into your chest, just towards your chest. You can hold on now under the hamstring or in front of your left shin. You kind of try to leave it where it is. If it lowers down, it's not a big deal. Let go, take your arms out to the side, thumbs to the sky. Keep hugging the outer right hip in. Appreciate the rumbling of some core work. 2 moments, just like this. And then step your left foot down hip distance from your right and return to your mountain, palms face out. We pause. There's a soft bit of bend in our knees in our mountain pose. We never want to lock our legs out, and since we're standing on one leg at a time, that's particularly important for us to note. This is going to call for using our chair. If you don't have a chair, you can use a wall or even the armrest for your couch. I'll bring my chair over in front of my mat. I'm actually going to turn it this way so that it's easiest for you to see me. You don't have to move your chair and furniture around. Let me do the moving so that we can see one another. Another core exercise. Now let's take our sun salutation into this. So arms out to the side, thumbs to the sky, a V shape. Hinge at your hips and hands to your thighs. Inhale your heart forward. Now stay here and place your hands either on the back of your chair or on the seat of your chair. So lower, but we want to make sure our head stays as high or higher than our hips the whole time. Stand on your right leg and extend your left leg back behind you. All of your toes are going to keep facing the ground, and we'll feel a little core work here too. Let's bend our right knee. So that bottom leg, let's bend it a fair amount. Feel your low belly lift towards your spine, and then you can get lighter and lighter on your hands here and just feel a little bit of the core work required to stay balanced here on one leg and with that leg extended behind us. 3 moments just like this. You breathe in? That's a non-negotiable. You got to keep breathing. And then let's step our left foot next to our right, chair pose, arms to the sky. Stand, float your arms along your sides. Pause for a moment while I move my chair, but you don't need to move yours. We'll take a sun salutation to get into it. Inhale, arms out and up. Hinge at your hips and hands to your thighs. Inhale your heart forward and keep that length through your spine. Place your hands either high up on your chair or onto the seat of your chair. Keep a bit of bend in your left knee. And lift your right leg off the ground back behind you, almost like a little letter T, but remember our head stays higher than our hips, and that's super important. Keep a bend in your left knee. Think of your low belly lifting towards your spine. So this is trunk stability that we're diving into. Maybe you get a little lighter on your hands. You don't have to, that's not a requirement, but you might feel more trunk stability called into action if you do that. If balance is tricky, then no need to take your hands off of your chair at all. I'm leaving mine on my chair the whole time. Last couple of moments. And then step your right foot hip distance from your left, and let's go to chair, thumbs to the sky, V shape overhead, stand, arms along your side. We're going to arrange our props once again. The mindfulness of prop movement is like the mindfulness of the practice itself. Your chair will now face you, just in case that's what you choose to use. Take your 2 blocks, or maybe they are tall books or thick books, and place them off the side of your mat and not right underfoot. So that's something just to take note. We want to be tripping on our props. Mountain pose, facing that short edge of our mat and facing our chair. Let's do a sun salutation that involves the chair pose we've been up to. So chair pose, thumbs to the sky. Hands onto your thighs as you exhale and hinge at the hips a bit. Inhale, traction, some length into your spine. Exhale, increase the hinge at your hips. Take your hands either to the seat of your chair or onto your 2 blocks, which will move close to you but not underfoot. Step your left foot back, and we're in a lunge. Now, it's a little bit like our letter T that we just created, except there's a bend in our front knee and our back leg's on the ground. I'd like you to feel that you're hugging your right hip underneath you. Remember that you can have your hands on the base of your chair, and all we'll do is run a little bit of an experiment. The trunk stability that I talked about when we were floating our leg off the ground, we'll see if we can find that here a little bit in our lunge. Now, you could float your hands off of your blocks a bit. You could even interlace your hands and draw them back behind you. But what I don't want is for you to collapse and round, and remember, head above hips at all times. So find the place that works for you. There's no need to do the interlace or take your hands off your chair or your block. I just want you to feel that we're trying to grow tall through the spine, even though we're in a lunge and at a different angle now. Last 2 moments, just like this. Return your hands to your blocks or to your chair where they may have been the whole time. Firm through your belly. Step your left foot hip distance from your right. Take your hands onto your thighs. Inhale your heart forward. Exhale, hinge at your hips. Let's stay in chair. Arms out to the side, thumbs to the sky, and then stand it up into your mountain and float your arms along your side with your palms facing out. Second side. Chair pose, bending your knees. Exhale, hinge at your hips and your hands come to your thighs. Inhale your heart forward. Exhale, increase the hinge at your hips and place your hands to your chair or onto your blocks. Step your right foot back. So we're in a runner's lunge. Draw your left hip back, your right hip forward. Feel the trunk stability that we got a hint of in our letter T, and we certainly found on our first side. And then remember that you're the expert and I'm the guide. You can keep your hands right where they are and just sort of imagine them getting lighter. Only if it kind of feels like you could keep your head above your hips and not round, might you experiment with your arms along your side or behind you with an interlace. And the interlace will help you to smile that length into your spine and to stay quite upright, head above hips. Left hip draws back, right hip draws forward, and we're breathing. 3 moments. You can always return your hands to the props before I mention it. 2 more. Release your interlace and bring your hands to your blocks or onto the seat of your chair. Firm through your belly and step your right foot hip distance from your left. Bring your hands to your thighs. Inhale, traction, length. Exhale, hinge at your hips. Keep your knees bent for chair pose, thumbs to the sky, and then stand it up and pause. Palms turn out. We'll leave our props where they are just as an assist to get to the floor, and then we'll mindfully move them out of our way. Ready? Chair pose, inhale, thumbs to the sky. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands onto your thighs. Inhale your heart forward and then place your hands on your chair, on your blocks, and carefully one knee and then the other, we come to the ground. Move your blocks off the side of your mat. Move your chair out of your way so it's not something that you might hit your head on or have it feel like it's in your way at all. Bring anything that you have as a folded blanket nearby, because we're now going to come onto hands and knees. And I think a lot of us might want to pad our knees with that folded blanket or towel. You know, on all fours, there's a few things I want us to be very conscientious of. So right now I'm arching my back too much. See if you can press the ground away and feel that your low belly is drawing in towards your spine. The other thing is that we're not concave here in between our shoulder blades, so pushing the ground away is going to give us a little sense of some trunk stability, some core stability. Have your toes curled under, keep oomping into the ground. Think of this too as an experiment that you may or may not actually fully express today, just like what we've been up to before. So as you push into the ground, it might just be an imaginary hovering of your knees. So push into the ground and think of hovering your knees an inch off your mat. It might be short-lived because it's kind of intense. 3 moments if you can with me here. Place your knees down, come off your hands, and make fists and open. Fists and open. Let your wrists release. We're going to do that one more time. You could take a child's pose and skip it if that has your name on it instead. Wrists underneath shoulders, spread your hands wide, toes are curled under, oomph into your arms, low belly lifts, and maybe it's imaginary or maybe you actually hover your knees off the ground, and we pause. No collapsing, no breath holding, you gotta keep breathing. 3 moments here. Now gently place your knees down on your mat, uncurl your toes, widen your knees a bit, and come towards a child's pose. For some of us, this deep bend in our knees just doesn't work. So you can always do your child's pose kind of basically where I'm at here, or you'll sink your hips towards your heels. Now turn your palms to the sky and press the backs of your hands into the ground. And maybe you make fists and open like we did before, just so we let our wrists release. Because we got one more moment on our hands and on our wrists, so I just want us to feel like we're prepared, like we've given them a break. Come to hands and knees. Maybe you've got your padding underneath your knees. Oomph into your arms like we just learned moments ago with what we were up to. The wholeness of both hands, so that means that base of your thumb and base of your index finger are not bubbling up off your mat. And we're shoulders over wrists. We're not too far forward, we're not too far back. Try to make it as vertical as you can, and then step your right foot back with your right toes curled under. Remind yourself to oomph into your arms. Place your right knee on the ground, and let's do that with the left leg. It steps back. We're oomping into our arms. Our hands are spread wide. No collapse of the shoulder blades, and low belly is lifting towards our spine. Now you might stick with that and leave it at that. Left knee down. If you need to do this kind of stuff with your wrists in between sides or anytime, know that you can do that independent of me anytime. Right foot steps back like we just did a moment ago, and for a lot of us, it's going to stay just like this. For a few of us, left foot will step and join in a plank position, pushing the ground away and breathing. For 3, you can come out of it early if you want. 2 more. Then bring your left knee to your mat and your right knee to your mat, and let's do our wrist spins. So just kneeling. Knees doing okay? Make sure there's padding if you want or need. And then hands on our mat, shoulders over our wrists. Step your left foot back, and you can leave it at that. Or step your right foot to meet your left foot, and we're in a plank. I would prefer that your hips be slightly too high than collapse too low here. So you can think of when we were hovering our knees and let it feel kind of like that, even though it's a bit wider and a little bit more challenging. And then bring your right knee to your mat and your left knee to your mat. One more little spinny, twisty, fisty moment for our wrists. Then slide out onto your belly. You might move what you're patting your knees with out of the way. Once you're on your belly, come onto your forearms for Sphinx. Feel as though you're tractioning your elbows towards you. You're now not curling your toes under anymore. Chest moves through the gateway of our arms. You could think of smiling your collarbones, but keep your chin parallel to the ground. So you could look once again towards our bright horizon as opposed to jutting the chin forward. Let's take a few moments here. Now lower down gently. Slide your elbows back. Actually, let's do this first. Make a pillow with your hands. Rest your forehead on your hands. Bend your knees and windshield wiper side to side. Let's just make sure our low backs feel good. Then return to the Sphinx positioning of our arms. So forearms parallel to the sides of your mat. Curl your toes under. Oomph into your forearms. Your elbows might be a little closer to your body than when we did Sphinx. Now think shoulder blades on your back, and you're going to start to lift your belly, your hips, your thighs, maybe even your knees off your mat, and we're in a forearm plank. So that could be more manageable with your knees down on your mat. We've got a lot of core and trunk stability happening. I kind of warned you at the beginning. Now bring your knees to your mat, your thighs to your mat, your hips, your belly, your ribs. Unravel into a little Sphinx pose. Uncurl your toes. If you like Sphinx a lot more than that forearm plank, you're probably in the majority, and you're welcome to just stay here. If you're game for another round of our forearm plank, curl your toes under, oomph into your arms, lift your belly, your hips, your thighs, possibly your knees. Remember what I said, I'd prefer that your hips be slightly too high than too low in our plank, and that's true here too. We're gonna hold it. For 3, you could bring your knees down if you feel like this is going on a little too long. 2 more. Last 1, bring your knees and your thighs and your hips and your belly and your ribs to your mat. Let's make our pillow and do our windshield wipers side to side. So just rest your forehead on your hands. I don't rest my forehead there because I have a microphone on and it won't be pretty. Now lower down, roll over onto your back. Once you're on your back, bend your knees. Place your feet on your mat, hip distance with your knees to the sky. Hold the edges of your mat. If you're not using a mat, just put your palms flat on the ground on either side of you. Shimmy your shoulder blades underneath you. A little counter pose, a little stretch of our front body. We've done a lot of strength of our front body. And then just start to lift your hips up. Easy does it. Let your tailbone feel long to the backs of your legs. We're not trying to get our hips super high to the sky or anything like that. Pull your mat apart if you have one. Pull your mat away from your head a little bit. And then just gently release down, hips to your mat. It's kind of like the opposite of rolling up into our plank on our forearms. We'll do that one more time. So lifting your hips, letting your tailbone shoot towards the backs of your knees. Pull as if you could your mat apart and your mat away from your head. 2 moments. And then gently release it down and pause. We'll take a spinal twist. So feet stay hip distance. Cactus your arms or take your arms out to the side. Scoot your hips to the right. Let your knees fall over to the right, to the left. And it might be that you take your right knee on top of your left knee as we twist here. We'll pause a few moments. Feels nice to take a twist after all that core work. We're going to do something a little bit tricky. So come back to center, but cross right ankle on top of left thigh. So if you had the knee on top, you just slide it until your ankle's on top of your thigh, and it can stay just like this. This is great. Thread the needle and maybe hold underneath your hamstring or interlace around your shin, sort of like we did with the knee into the chest not so long ago. Let your head be supported, so back of your head. I'm turning to look at you, but do as I say, not as I do with that. So you could slide your block underneath your head or your folded blanket if that feels better. Close your eyes if that feels okay to you. Let me be silent and leave you in a moment of hip stretch and meditation. Release your feet hip distance. Scoot your hips left and let your knees spill to the right for our twist. If it feels nice to you, cross your left knee on top of your right knee as part of your twist and pause. And then come back to center and just slide that left ankle down to the thigh, or place your left ankle on your thigh and thread the needle if it's appropriate, or just stay as you are if that's all you need. A silent hip stretch meditation moment. And then gently release your interlace if that's what you have happening. Place your feet as wide as your mat. Let your knees knock knee in on each other and lift your hips just a little, not as much as our bridge, but a little bit, so you can drop back into center and either stay like this or straighten one leg and then the other. We spill across the floor and into our Shavasana final meditation. Close, maybe cover your eyes. Enjoy your rest and digest. You're welcome to stay here in your Shavasana as long as you'd like. If you're ready, move your fingers and toes. You can stretch arms and legs away from each other and then knees to chest. Go slow as you come up to any comfortable way for you to sit. And once you're seated, palms can go up or down. Take a few moments before we head back out into the world to really feel calm to our core. I'm Andrea. Thank you so much for practicing with me.